Welcome back, scholars, to our Digital Academy. I am Professor Spark. Whether we are turning the pages of a timeless novel, our mission remains the same. Will today's sweep us into the concert hall? Let's find out together.
Welcome to The Explainer. Imagine, just for a second, packing your bags for the absolute ultimate road trip. Only, this one isn't happening in some modern camper van with a curated playlist. It took place over 600 years ago. Today, we're unpacking a truly legendary journey that also just so happens to be the greatest storytelling contest in history, Geoffrey Chaucer's masterpiece, The Canterbury Tales. So get ready, because we're hitting the road with knights, millers, and, as you'll see, a few very shady characters.
Okay, let's dive right into this. How exactly do you get a bunch of completely different people from every single walk of medieval life into the exact same room? Well, you use a literary device called a frame narrative. It's literally a story within a story. Chaucer's brilliant excuse to mix up the social classes was a pilgrimage. He basically gathers everyone together for a long trip from London all the way to the shrine of Thomas Becket in Canterbury. It's just the perfect framework to connect multiple, smaller tales into one massive, highly entertaining epic.
Before we set off, here is our travel itinerary for today. 1. The ultimate road trip. 2. A world in transformation. 3. Meeting the pilgrims. 4. Irony, class, and corruption. And finally, 5. Chaucer's lasting legacy. Let's get started.
Section 1. The ultimate road trip. The contest begins. So, our instigator, host Harry Bailey, pitches this brilliant idea to keep the travelers entertained. Each person tells stories on the way, and the best tale wins a free meal. Honestly, it's the ultimate medieval icebreaker.
Moving right along to Section 2, A World in Transformation, the 14th century backdrop.
And this brilliantly illustrates why the whole setup is so fascinating. To truly appreciate this road trip, we have to realize that late 14th century England was a world completely turned upside down. I mean, the 100 Years' War was raging. The Black Death had absolutely decimated the population, and rapid town growth was driving this massive increase in social mobility. Add in some really heavy tensions over church authority, and you have a society that was actively questioning traditional norms. Chaucer lived right in the middle of this chaos, and he captured it perfectly.
Which brings us to Section 3, Meeting the Pilgrims, a cross-section of society.
This is where Chaucer's genius absolutely shines. Instead of just writing about, untouchable saints or flawless kings, he gives us a true cross-section of ordinary, flawed, messy people. You have the knight, who is this honorable, courageous guy telling a serious, chivalric romance. Then you have the loud, crude miller spinning these dirty comic jokes. And of course, the wife of Bath, an incredibly independent woman deeply exploring gender roles. Every single tale perfectly matches the personality and the social class of the person telling it. Just look at this stark contrast between these two. The knight represents honor, loyalty, and Christian ideals with a very serious, noble romance about destiny. But he's immediately followed up by the miller, who is drunk, loud, and loves a good practical joke. The miller's crude, earthy tale relies entirely on physical comedy to deliberately mock the high-minded seriousness of the knight. It's basically medieval stand-up comedy interrupting a very dramatic play.
Now, what's really interesting here is this quote, "Women desire sovereignty within marriage." This comes directly from the wife of Bath, who is arguably Chaucer's most famous character. She's been married 5 times, she's fiercely progressive, and she speaks openly about power, the reality of the female experience, and independence versus traditional male authority. For the 14th century, that is literally revolutionary stuff.
All right, Section 4, Irony, Class, and Corruption. Looking beneath the surface.
Can appearances be trusted? I actually want you to ask yourself that right now. It's a central theme Chaucer forces us to grapple with. Because as we examine human behavior on this pilgrimage, we start to see that many characters who appear completely respectable on the outside are actually entirely corrupt.
And there is absolutely no better example of this jarring hypocrisy than the pardoner. Just look at the contradiction here. In appearance, he preaches this powerful, deeply moving moral story condemning the sin of greed. But in reality, he openly admits to being completely corrupt, selling fake religious relics for pure profit. This ironical contradiction makes him one of literature's most unsettling yet fascinating psychological portraits. Chaucer really used characters like the pardoner to deliver some sharp criticism against the greed, the selling of forgiveness, and the abuse of authority happening within the medieval church. Crucially, though, we have to clarify that he was criticizing the corruption of individuals rather than attacking the Christian faith itself. He used this brilliant irony to expose foolishness without ever sounding preachy.
So, the crucial point is this: virtue is not determined by birth. Good and bad people exist in every single class. Whether you are a wealthy priest or a poor farmer, character is what actually matters. In medieval Europe, a time when society was strictly divided by birthright, this was an incredibly progressive view on social class.
Which brings us to our final destination, Section 5, Chaucer's Lasting Legacy, Pioneering English Literature.
Chaucer actually only finished 24 of his planned tales before he died, but man, they completely revolutionized the written word. First off, he abandoned those flat medieval archetypes, giving distinct, unique voices to ordinary people. Second, he infused them with deep psychological realism, making their vanity, their contradictions, and their humor feel incredibly real. And finally, he chose to write all of this in Middle English vernacular, the everyday language of the common people, rather than Latin or French.
And all of this created a massive ripple effect. His development of realistic characterization, his brilliant use of the vernacular, and his absolute mastery of satire changed the game forever. He practically helped establish English as a major literary language. Without Chaucer paving the way, the works of giants like Shakespeare, Dickens, and James Joyce might look completely different today.
Which brings us to the end of our journey today and leaves us with one final provocative question. 600 years later, which of Chaucer's flawed, funny, and deeply human pilgrims do you see in yourself today? The 14th century themes of love, power, greed, and identity feel just as urgently modern now as they did back then. If this sparked your curiosity, I highly recommend diving into the source material yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.